David and Marnell Hibbard have decades of experience in sales and customer development. They are the co-founders of Dialexis, an industry-leading sales training organization that creates high-producing sales leaders. They empower individuals and businesses to become more profitable, more successful, and be marketplace leaders while maintaining integrity and trust. They have co-authored the highly acclaimed leadership book, The Canoe Theory, and the book that grew out of the #1 demand generation solution in North America. They've been invited by some of the most respected and ethical companies around the globe to introduce this system. Let's welcome the authors of SOAR Selling, David and Marnell Hibbard. Welcome to Soundview Live.
Hey, good morning, Andrew. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We are thrilled to be here. We're going to move at a pretty good clip, so stay steady, and I think there's an opportunity at the backside. Is there not, Marnell, for questions?
Absolutely, there are.
So why don't we go ahead and begin?
Excellent, excellent. So welcome. Welcome to SOAR Selling. SOAR is an acronym for Surge of Accelerating Revenue. Both David and I started in the world of selling, David with Procter & Gamble and I in commercial real estate, and then we both merged into commercial real estate. And one of the most difficult pieces of the selling game in our mind was how to get in front of your decision maker. And that was really what we've been on the quest to solve, and in the SOAR Selling book, all the answers are there. But it is really, SOAR is the #1 demand generation solution in North America. So increasing your personal productivity, your personal production, increasing your client base, and ultimately taking market share. So as Dave said, let's get going. Let's have some fun.
All right, so SOAR Selling was released and is now moving through the world pretty well, as Marnell said. And it is focused. If you look at your screen, you'll see it says historical books that tell you what to do once you get in. And you'll know some of these. They're terrific systems. And they tell the salesperson what they should do, how they should sell once they get in.
And that's an important piece. I mean, you need to know what to do when you're in front of someone. But how do you get in front of someone? So, Dave, take it away. How do we do this?
How do you get in front of a person is the real stick point. And the methodologies that have been going on now are pretty much considered by the numbers plus luck. Just make a lot of calls and you will make contact. We're going to be talking about real-world strategies for building an A best-in-class demand generation sales team, and how does that work? So let's take a look at what we discovered through traveling about the world, instructing how to reach decision makers and high influencers on the telephone, and where the stick points are. And if you look at the circles here, the first circle says, how do you make contact? The average sales number, I guess you'd use, or percent in the U.S. for making contact is if someone makes 100 dials, they might make contact with a decision maker or high influencer 10% of the time, maybe 20%. So in essence, if they make 100 dials, they may reach 10 people. With SOAR, if they make 12 dials, they'll reach 10 people.
Now, wait a minute. Think about this. That sounds crazy.
It does sound crazy.
I know, really.
Yeah. Because how can that be? You know?
I know. Well, how do you know that's true, though? I'm going to ask you that.
Well, we've measured it statistically with many corporations in North America, and we've tracked the statistics, and we teach this program throughout the country with our sales team, instructor team. And these are the stats that we continue to reshuffle, and they keep coming up the same, a 90% contact rate with decision makers or high influencers, and that's where we get the stats.
In fact, we were in San Diego, California 2 weeks ago, and there were 45 people that there were double trainers and was a live class, and it was 100% contact rate when people live dialed on a speakerphone in front of their peers. So we had 2 training groups simultaneously, and it was 100% contact rate. And the ultimate goal is not to make contact, but you slip over to the far right, and the action or the A for appointment. And in that group, there were 38, is that right, 38%
38% contact rate. And
no, appointment.
That's what I mean, appointments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, 38%.
So what's in the middle then, Dave?
So let's take a look.
Because the methodology of SOAR teaches you, it's almost like paint by numbers. If you really follow the bouncing ball, you will absolutely make contact. As Dave said, 90% of the time. Then what's the VS?
And here's what we saw instructing over the years. Once we showed the formula for reaching decision makers and high influencers, salespeople, because they're doing it live on speakerphone, would then, the next thing they would have to do, the person would answer the phone and say, this is Bill Gates, let's say, and they have to say something. They have to have a value statement. Well, what they do is they say stupid things, not because they're stupid. They just say things that are crazy.
What? I have seen in live training, honestly, where because we're not used to someone actually making contact. So they're on the phone, they pick up the person they're calling actually answers the phone, and they have this look of deer in the headlights. I've seen people actually in live training.
They don't think they're actually going to make contact.
No, they hang up because they don't know what to say. So the next piece is the value statement.
So here it goes. So we got this contact thing down. Then we find they didn't know what to say, so we're playing with that today. We teach it. Then after they say something compelling, the customer, the target person, will have objections, concerns, or comments. If they handle that well, we go over to the qualify zone, because what tends to happen is someone says, yes, I'll agree to an appointment, or no, I won't. But that's in the objection phase mostly. But yes, I'll agree to an appointment, or they say, send me something. And that takes qualifying, because that takes qualifying. And so someone says, send me something, and in a large group,
we're going to cover that later.
We are, but they'll say, send me something, and oftentimes in a group we'll say to the audience, what does send me something mean? And they'll say things like, what, Marnell? Oh, they're trying to block you.
Yeah, they're really not interested. It's really that they want to get me off the phone.
Push off or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. No one thinks it's a legitimate request for information most of the time.
And it may not be. I mean, But the point is, what if they said, Ziggy me? And then the salespeople would hang up and say to their manager, the guy said to Ziggy him, like, send me something. And the manager would say, well, what does Ziggy mean? And the salesperson, I don't know, I didn't ask. So it's the same thing about send me something. What does it mean? And without qualifying that, salespeople end up with a pipeline of send me somethings, and they don't hit their budget or their numbers because they never qualified the SMS. So this is kind of the basic, what we call the survival kit above there, the basic process of how prospecting, demand generation, driving net new business goes. We then move forward into saying, since most salespeople don't come with the mechanics for demand generation beyond by the numbers plus luck, here are a few things for reaching decision makers. So we'll move you right into that space.
Right, and that's where I think poor salespeople really get discouraged. Why would I want to find a new customer or a new client? Is because they are without the tools to be able to get in front of that new decision maker, to be able to share with them. In fact, I'll pull from you. We have a webinar that we were asked questions, and this company said, we have a great product, we have great results for our clients, but we can't get in front of who we need to. And as Dave said, it's typically BTN plus L, by the numbers plus luck. And who is inspired to do that? No
Nobody.
one. So that's why the SOAR methodology is so profound. If you can pick up the phone 12 times and make 10 contacts. So
those are the stats. Think about it, to our listeners out there. Can you imagine, and many of you have done this, you've worked in a company where you might have made 100 calls in a day, and your sales manager said, how'd you do today? And you said, well, I made 2 contacts and I got 1 appointment. And the sales manager says, well, that's terrible. And the person at the other end says, well, I don't know what I can do. Well, you know what the answer is. Make more calls. Make 200 calls. And that is the old way of demand generation. And that's why the telephone is the most underused instrument on the planet today, because it became a telemarketing tool, not a strategic target contact tool.
That's exactly right. So how do you do it? So let me take this slide.
Go for it.
The first one is, really, it's the first point of contact typically in most organizations is the receptionist, right? So you need to understand the mindset of that receptionist, because that is truly the first line of defense. And we call that the NIZ zone. And this is really important because we're going to go further and explain why. But this is the no information zone. Your goal is to get out of that area as quickly as possible. And we'll do a role play to show you how you do that. But that's the no information no. You need to really understand what it is the receptionist needs to know and what it is that they don't need to know.
And I want to clarify something. When it says understand the animal, listen, it's not the animal in a negative sense. That concept is, what was that guy that used to be in the television all the time? They got stung by a manta ray on the chest, whatever, Steve Irwin or whatever his name was. Understand this receptionist. Understand how they think. What is it that we're dealing with, just as you would if you were the guy that did Steve Irwin. But let's go ahead and say, how do we understand them? How are they constructed with all due respect to them?
Absolutely. I was a receptionist, my first job right out of college.
Okay, so here's a big stretch that we're going to tell you, and I hope you guys can grab this in an open space. Receptionists, we say, are chipped, not in a negative space, not that there's something wrong with them, but when receptionists start in a company, just like any person would start at Starbucks or any other place, they are told certain questions they should ask. For example, down below it says room for cream. At Starbucks, they are typically said, can I help you? And then the person says what they say, and they say, room for cream. And so imagine that when they began their job, the receptionist was told these are the basic questions. But after they've been there for a while, they kind of forget about those questions. They're not as relevant anymore. And they don't often even realize they're asking.
That's the key. They don't realize they're asking.
So here's an example. I was at Starbucks, and I was in line with two guys ahead of me. And the first guy said, I'll have a venti regular coffee. And the gal said, room for cream. And he said, no. The second guy stepped in the pocket. He said, I'll have a grande decaf. And the gal behind the desk said, a counter said, room for cream. He said, no. Now, I'm watching this thinking to myself, well, I like cream, right, Marnell?
That's right.
And when I get up, I'll just say room for cream. So I step in the pocket, and I say, yes, I'd like a venti regular coffee with room for cream, please. I just go right to it. She says, good. Turns around, gets the coffee, gives it to me, puts the cap on, charges me my $200, and I step over to the counter, open my coffee, and to my surprise, what, Marnell?
There is no room for cream. It is completely to the top.
No room for cream. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? So I wanted to, although I didn't, but we know this kind of work, I wanted to go back to the counter lady and say, excuse me, but, when I was in line, I was watching, and I had two people ahead of me, and every person that asked you for coffee, you said room for cream. And then I said, I want room for cream. And when I opened my coffee, there was no room for cream. Why would you ask room for cream if you don't intend to leave room for cream? And the receptionist would have said, knowing this work, I'm chipped.
But not the receptionist.
The Starbucks gal. Yeah. Well, same thing. The Starbucks gal would say, I'm chipped. It's what I was told to do when I started. And you know what? I didn't even know I said that, sir. I'm sorry. Let me give you some room for cream. They don't even realize they're saying it. It is what they were told in the beginning, so they're chipped. Marnell and I were on the road in Montana years ago. We came over a ridge. There was a McDonald's, and I said, let's grab a burger at least. And I went in, and I said, I'll have 2 hamburgers with everything on it, 2 Diet Cokes, and no fries. And the young lady said, all right, and would you like fries?
Again, chipped, meaning that it's almost on automatic pilot. Have you ever been in the car and you were on your way to work, except this morning you were supposed to go to the dentist, and where do you end up? At work, because you're so programmed.
Chipped.
That's what chipped means, programmed.
So here's a shock for you, and the world kind of gets this when we teach it. Receptionists ask questions that are challenging to salespeople coming through that they don't know or want the answers to. They're just chip questions. And salespeople answer those questions as if the receptionist does want to know, and they end up getting what we call, dropped from the call, or they die in the NIZ zone, as Marnell said.
And one of the areas, though, if you call on very small companies, they may want to know, because that receptionist may be the wife or daughter or the husband of the owner. So there's a distinction there. So I just want to make sure that we say that.
Good distinction, Marnell. Those real small companies are a little bit edgier. The easier to get in companies are the larger companies, really. But nevertheless, here we go. So be open to us, if you will, and just realize that, allow yourself to the possibility that receptionists really don't want to know the answer, despite asking it.
Exactly.
Now, what is it that they're asking? And we'll cover that in a moment. But, Marnell, receptionists make statements requiring keyword listening and interpretation. Oh, so here are a few.
I don't believe she's in. Now, remember when I said that I was a receptionist right out of school? I was. And I had 400 people, and I had a really big lot of lines. So the receptionist's goal, almost like hot potato, they want to get that person off the phone, whoever's calling in, and they want to go put them in voicemail, which is the easiest thing for a receptionist to do, or put them off to the, and they go into voicemail on their own. They ring the direct line. They do not want to be in conversation typically.
Not like they don't care.
No, they have a lot of lines ringing at the same time. So they're just going to go to the easiest route, in this case, say, I don't believe she's in. Because, A, they probably haven't seen the person you're calling for. It doesn't mean that the person isn't in or couldn't be in, but the receptionist sitting at the front hasn't seen that individual.
For example, if you look at the bottom one, it says Bill Smith, let's say, and the receptionist says, just who's calling? You say Dave Hibbard, and they say, just a moment. Then they come back and say, I'm sorry, he's not available. Would you like his voicemail? And we are instructing salespeople to say, operator, when you say he's not available, do you mean he's in a meeting, he's out to lunch, he stepped away from his desk? And you know what they'll often say?
They'll often say, he didn't answer, or I haven't seen him today. Or he didn't answer his last call.
Or something like that. I haven't seen him today. Doesn't mean he's not in. So they make that assumption, so that you're going to get keywords like, I don't believe she is in, or I'm pretty sure he went to lunch. And when we role play this with people, it is unbelievable in the class. They do not hear these words. We'll say things, we'll do a role play and say, okay, what's your name? John. John, make a call. And he says, okay, here we go. And then we'll be the operator. We'll say, American Products. And John says, Bill Smith, please. And then we'll say, I don't believe he's in. Would you like his voicemail? And then John says, okay, or they'll hang up. And we'll say, why did you hang up? Well, he wasn't in. Well, why did you say he wasn't in? Well, she said he wasn't in. And we're the one doing the role play, and we'll say, no, we never said he wasn't in. Yeah, you did. No, we didn't. Then they'll say to us, well, what did you say? They didn't even hear the believe word. I don't believe he or she is in. They don't even hear it. In their personal life, they hear it. Did you take a cookie while Daddy was gone? I don't believe I did. Well, what do you mean you don't believe you did? You hear it in your personal life.
Absolutely.
And you guys, Marnell, I don't know why they don't hear it. Do they not want to make contact?
Well, you know what? Listen, as we said, we're in sales, both Dave and I, and there is this intrepidation. I don't want to bother. I don't want to offend. So, okay, I'll go to the easiest route. I don't believe he's in. Okay, thank you. I've made a call, Bob.
Yeah.
I got it, but he wasn't in.
Yeah, I got to get out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if the guy is in, I don't know what in the world I'm going to do.
Exactly.
Now, listen, you guys, don't take our comments as insulting to salespeople or anybody, because we love the world of selling. It has altered our life dramatically.
It has.
We honor it. We want it to be professional. It's why we work with many ethical companies. But, there's a lot of humor in here. So let's carry on. So one of the things is keyword listening and interpretation is critical for people to get past the first barrier, which is the receptionist.
And this is something that we explain in detail. But one of the most important pieces, as Dave just said, it's oftentimes people say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't believe he's in, and they'll hang up. And so it's like Groundhog Day, if you've ever seen that movie. It's like a repetitive circle where you make a call, you are trying to look for new business, and you're calling that same client over and over and over again because you never get through. Well, we don't think that's an efficient use of your time. So we've created a map called Ride the Bull. And we want it.
How long, by the way, do you stay on a bull, Marnell?
8 seconds, Dave.
So 8 seconds.
So you can't just hang up. We really want you to ride the bull. And we're going to go through what we call the hunt track.
Let's do a role play.
Okay, let's do it. Okay.
Here, we'll show you how it goes. We'll do a little role play for the fun of it. Here, you can hear it.
I think it's the next
Well,
slide.
let's not show the next slide yet.
Okay.
But we're going to do it for you first. Can you imagine, listen to this, this is the way we want salespeople who are demand generation focused to make their calls. And not cold call. We're not talking about cold calling here. So that is not our game. Source selling is about strategic contact, making fewer dials with higher hit rate. Not a cold calling, telemarketing approach. So let's do a quick role play.
Okay.
So Marnell, you want to? I'll be the company. You want to do that?
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
You can be the sales. Here's how we'd like it to go. American Products.
Bill Smith, please.
Who's calling?
Marnell Hibbard.
Arnell Hibbard.
Yes.
So whatever they call you, you say yes. Why do you want to discuss your name?
Remember, we said NIZ zone. Get out of there
out
as quickly as possible.
You don't want to like you'll say Marnell Hibbard, and let's do it the wrong way.
Okay.
Who's calling?
Marnell Hibbard.
Arnell Hibbard.
No, Marnell. Marnell. MARHNELLE. Marnell.
Barnell.
No,
See, look what's going on. We're in this big discussion in the NIZ zone. You're going to die. You got to get out. What do you care what they call you? When you get down to your contact, you figure it out. They'll work it out.
Right.
So anyway, here we go.
Okay.
All right, so let's start fresh. American Products.
Bill Smith.
Who's calling?
Marnell Hibbard.
Arnell Hibbard?
Yes.
Okay, Arnell, I don't believe he's in. Would you like his voicemail?
Would you page him, please?
Now, she asked for Paige because she heard, I don't believe he's in. And I said to you, well, I haven't seen him.
I understand, but would you page him just in case? Give it a try.
Just a moment, and they come back and say, I'm sorry, ma'am, he didn't answer. Would you like his voicemail?
Who sits near Bill that might be able to see if he's in?
Well, I don't really know. He's in another part of the building, so I don't know. But I think the best thing is his voicemail.
I understand. In case he is out, may I have his business cell?
Well, I wouldn't have that number.
Who would?
All right, so there's a keyword listing right there. They say, I wouldn't have that number. Marnell says, who would have it? Let's go the other way, Marnell.
Okay.
Ask for his business cell number again.
May I have his business cell?
Ma'am, we don't give business cell numbers out.
I understand. I can hold while you connect me.
Now, they do. They connect the salesperson maybe, 30% of the time, I guess, something like that. Mm-hmm. But let's say they don't. They say, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Not a problem. Why don't we do this? Would you connect me with Bill's assistant?
His executive assistant, just a moment. That's Tony. Hold on. I'm sorry, his assistant didn't answer.
Excellent. Would you page, please?
So we're back. Now, listen, you hear this, and you think to yourself, oh, my goodness.
This is crazy.
This is crazy. I can't do this. They'll be angry. Listen, they aren't. They aren't angry. As long as you're doing it diplomatically, as we instruct it live with corporations, they aren't angry. And if the EAP, as we call it, the executive assistant to the president, does not answer, then through the page, then we will go to RTB, which is?
Ride the Bull.
Ride the Bull. There you are on your screen.
One of the things that we really didn't cover, and it's really one of the most important pieces, we're giving you the mechanics of this, but it is really about the mindset. In the mindset, if you have the right mindset, if you really ground yourself, you really believe yourself to be a professional salesperson that has a good product or service, that you really want to make an introduction to this company, then you will stay on that call because you're being in service to this customer, potential client. And so that's the piece that I really want you to get. And because this is an 45-minute hour delivery, we are trying to give you some of the mechanics. But I really want you to understand the mindset piece, which is probably half of the SOAR book, is really valuable to make sure that you can stay on that bull so you do get the results. In live class, I will tell you, every time they do the hunt track, everyone watching on a live speakerphone, someone really makes a live dial, every other participant, mouth drops when either they get through to Bill because of someone that sits near him and he's right there, takes a call, or they give him or connect them to the business cell and he gets a hold of Bill. And Bill says, you know what, I'm on the golf course. This has really happened. I am on the golf course, but I appreciate what you're saying. I would love to meet with you. Call me tomorrow at whatever time. And they do. So be open to the possibility that you've got something powerful, but you've got to really ground your mindset on that.
Yeah, mindset's big. You know, when people sit down to make a live dial in the programs, we'll say to them before they dial, what is your intention on this call? And they'll say, well, I'm going to try to get an appointment. And what do we hear as instructors?
Well, you heard it. I'm going to try to get an appointment. I'm going to try. In other words, they're not convinced they're going to make contact. And so once you really get focused that you can make contact with the system, and if you ride the bull and follow the hunt track, that you will be successful.
Yeah, and when they do gain cell numbers, where the operator will say, well, yeah, here's Bill's cell number, and then let's say they'll raid the bull to work to the EAP, but if that doesn't happen, they hang up, let's say, and then they'll have a decision to make. Are they going to call Bill on his cell number? And we say, how many of you out there think we should call Bill on the cell number that we just got? Half the room will say no, and they'll say things like, well, he'll be mad, or he'll be angry, or I wouldn't want to break a relationship, or I'll wait till Monday, or I wouldn't do that. And the other half room says,
absolutely, why not? I would want, if I have my phone on, I want to get messages. If I would love someone to call me. If you guys think of yourselves as really consultants of an industry or product or service, that you can help this company that you're making the call to, as Dave said, a strategic call, then I think it is valuable that you make contact. As having acted as a CEO, I want you to call me. I want you to share your knowledge with me.
But what if I have a mindset like, well, he'll probably be angry if I call? I just then generate that which I believe.
Which he'll be angry.
Which he'll be angry. And so they call, the guy's upset, then they hang up, say, see, they don't like that. So it's whatever your mindset is. So in SOAR, there's you'll get the book maybe if you want to and look at it, and you'll see a big section on mindset about what is your prevailing mindset and belief about this thing called demand generation, which is dictating so many of the results, because SOAR is broken up into mindset and mechanics. It's not just a mechanic game.
Right. So here's the hunt track. I'm sure you've written it down. Page, sit near, business cell, their executive assistant page, and then you ride the bull. So then you go to a secondary piece, not yet, a secondary group like a CFO or the CTO or whatever your secondary group would be.
That's your ride the bull
now,
part.
Say you run into a receptionist that isn't as nice. She wasn't going to page. She's not going to sit near. She's going to go ahead. Next slide, please.
By the way, Marnell, if I can real quick before we go there, you might say, well, why are you going to the president in the first place? Because the president is not the one that is the ordinary contact for you. Because we're going to Bill Smith, let's say, the president, which will teach you. But we're looking for a referral out of what we call the power zone, which is where the president is, into our most likely contact. There's more than one decision maker in a company. You know, you've got the president, who's the ultimate decision maker, and then they have P&L responsibility that's been abdicated to other people. So we always start with the president. But let's take a look at some things here. When you're still up in the NIZ zone with the receptionist, they ask what we call death questions. And why do we call them death questions, Marnell?
Because you die
if you answer wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And what are they?
Because again, they are, what is this regarding? Let's flip.
Here's a death question. What is this regarding?
Is he expecting or she expecting your call? What company are you with?
Why is that a death question?
Well, because immediately if the receptionist is on her game and
you do it with me. Do it real quick.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you the company. You say the company, okay? But use our company, all right?
Okay.
All right. American Products.
Bill Smith.
Who's calling?
Marnell Hibbard.
Yes, Marnell. And what company are you calling from?
And you want me to Dialexis.
Dialexis. Now, this is why it doesn't work. Watch. Dialexis. And what is Dialexis?
blah, blah, blah.
No,
Dialexis is the number one demand generation solution in North America.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
We teach how to make contact with decision makers or high influencers.
Okay, well, we're not interested. Thank you.
Thank
Click.
you. Yeah.
And you think, God, dog it, why did I say my company? You don't want to say your company. It's a death question.
No, it is.
So then you're thinking, well, what do I say? Well, let's keep on rolling here.
Yeah.
Here's another one.
Yeah, is this a sales call?
And you know, salespeople say, well, no, it's not, and they make up some goofy logic that it's not a sales call.
Right, because we believe in professionalism, authenticity, and we absolutely believe you can do this without making anything up. So the true answer, is this a sales call? It would be yes. This is a sales call. So we don't want you to say anything but the truth. So this is where we go.
Well, here's the deal. You could say it's a sales call if you're pressed hard to it, but as Marnell says, but there are answers to these questions, and we call these questions death questions again because you die if you answer them wrong. And here we go. So how do you answer death questions? Now, this is bizarre. Hang in there. The answer to any of those questions, what company you're with and so on, is simply just to say, number one, just let him know if it's a man, just let him know it's regarding, because you want to hit the chip right, what is this regarding, even though they said what company you're with. The word regarding hits the receptionist's chip. Just let him know it's regarding, and you put your name there. So you would say, just let him know it's regarding Dave Hibbert. Now, that sounds bizarre because you think, well, that seems strange, because you think that a receptionist would say, sir, I just said who's calling, and you said Dave Hibbert. And then I said, what is this regarding, or what company you're with? And you said, just let him know it's regarding Dave Hibbert. You know, I find that very unusual. Well, they don't say that.
They don't.
And the reason they don't say it is because it's a chip question, and they don't want to know what it's regarding anyway.
Most of the time, absolutely. And again, unless it's a very small company where the owner's wife or husband is answering the phone. Absolutely. And then if they push you a little bit and they say, but...
will he know?
Yeah, will he know who you are?
And then the answer would be, I'm sure if you mention Dave Hibbert, it'll be fine. Now, how do we know that it's going to be fine? Why would we say that? Well, for two reasons. One is we know it's going to be fine because we've done this throughout North America and Europe and so on so many thousands of times that it's always fine. Now, is it always fine? Well, maybe there's a % or 2 possibility that it won't be fine and they get a little uptight about it, but it's so minute, really. And so we would not be doing this in corporations of high respect and ethics and so on if it weren't fine. The other reason we know it's going to be fine is because of number one. They don't generally tell them who's calling or what you said anyway.
Remember,
they just put you through because...
Yeah, remember, they just want, the receptionist's job is to put those calls through as quickly as possible. That is it. So when they ask, what is this regarding? What company are you with? Is he expecting your call? And so on. When you say, just let him know it's regarding Marnell Hibbert, that usually suffices. And they said, okay, I got an answer to the question, and they move on. Even though it's not a direct answer to the question, it is an answer to the question, they move on. And if they do push and say, will he know Dave Hibbert? I'm sure if you mention Dave Hibbert, it'll be fine.
Right.
And honestly, what Dave said, 99% of the time, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So here we go to the next slide, which is
Marnell,
really...
can we role play that real quick?
Sure.
Remember the hunt track we did before? Let's go back now.
Okay.
And let's go and do this again and show how this kind of works, and we'll put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I say American Products.
Bill Smith.
Who's calling?
Marnell Hibbert.
This is Barnell Hibbert?
Yes.
Okay, Barnell. And is he expecting your call?
Just let him know it's regarding Marnell Hibbert.
Now, that's what Marnell would do on a death question. What if I say, and Marnell, and what company are you with? Now, if the company is not identified by name, like Dialexis,
right,
you could say Dialexis, because there's no branding, let's say.
Right, exactly.
But if they then say, what is Dialexis?
I'm sure if you just mention Marnell Hibbard, it'll be fine.
Right. So you can use these two statements in the NIZ zone, which strangely enough work, and the receptionists just are good with it. It's crazy, but it is. And so here's putting it all together. Let's take a look at the whole thing in its kind of its entirety here.
So we call this the Ride the Bull map. And as you can see, there are pieces that we haven't covered underneath. You've seen the NIZ zone, and the big R at 12 o'clock on your screen is for receptionists. And then if you drop down, it looks like 11 o'clock, the DISC. That's to understand what type of behavioral style that you're dealing with on the telephone. And then to the right of that is the story. You see that at 1 o'clock, story. And that's more about your mindset piece there, that, what kind of story are you running? Do you feel you have value in making that connection or not? So here you go. You see on the far right side, I don't know if it would be 2 o'clock, the hunt trap, page, sit near, business cell, EAP, executive assistant, and then you start with the EAP page. You ride that bull. Then we can go to the secondary circles that are in gray. The secondary circles starting at, say, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock CFO, 11 o'clock COO, and then at 1 o'clock the VP and
VP of something else.
Yeah, another VP. So, and then on the far left, you'll see in the box the NIZ. So those are the responses, once again, that if you are asked a death question, use those first two responses. Just let them know it's regarding Marnell Hibbard, and I'm sure it'll be fine if you mentioned Marnell.
So here we go. There's a big no-no here. Let's be clear. Understand that at the top in the NIZ zone, this is what we call at Dialexis in source selling. We call this the gatekeeper. Okay?
Right.
That is the gatekeeper.
Right.
When you go down and you look at the red circle, we call that the power zone. And the power zone is where there's power, PZ, at the bottom at 6 o'clock. It's where the president or owner resides, and the EAP, executive assistant to the president. We don't say secretary. Those are old words. Now, down in the power zone, if you come through the top, through the we've got this little reverse in mental, but if you come through the receptionist and the receptionist says American Products, and you say Bill Smith, please, the president, because we always want to get to the president.
Right.
The receptionist does not ask a death question, let's say, and puts you through. And that you come down and the EAP says Bill Smith's office.
And that's in the red circle below.
And then you say Bill Smith, please, and the EAP says, can I tell him who's calling? And you say, Marnell Hibbard. That's all fine, so good. Then the EAP says, can I tell him what this is regarding? Now, in this area, you do not use at 9 o'clock, way over there, the NIZ responses, where it says just let him know it's regarding. You don't use them there. This is not, in our world, a gatekeeper. This is an ally. So we're not fooling around. We're not fooling around anywhere, but we're not using any of these kind of questions. When you get into the power zone and the EAP says, what is this regarding, you reveal everything.
Okay, so let's role play.
So, Marnell, I'll do it. So I say, Bill Smith's office, this is Tony.
Oh, hi, Tony. Bill Smith, please.
Mr. Smith is in a long conference call. Can I help you?
By any chance, Tony, are you his executive assistant?
So she's asking for clarity to be sure right here that she's speaking to someone of authority, and they do have high influence authority. And I say to you, yes, I am Bill's executive assistant. Can I help you?
Absolutely. Great. Okay, so maybe you can help me. I'm looking for some direction, Tony.
How can I help you?
Sure. I'm with a company called Dialexis.
Okay, so then what she does is she'll use her value statement. And you remember back in the early slides where we're saying contact value statement.
Right.
So then Marnell is going to reveal a value statement, and the value statement she reveals may be different for an enterprise large account than it would be for a smaller account. because there's a process for developing value statements based on research, et cetera, that we use, which is not on this slide pack of what is being said there.
Absolutely, and this works because it's amazing, but the executive assistant to the president is almost like someone that, and I can't think of the word now, but they are really the representative for the president. So they usually, not only are they the confidant in most cases, you have to qualify a little bit. It's a temp. That's not the same.
That's why you're asking, are you?
Right. Or if they're just brand new, may not be the same. But basically, they're the liaison. They're almost the representative of goodwill for the company. So when you ask, I'm looking for some direction, I'm looking for some coaching.
That's what they do.
That's exactly what they do. So that's what you're looking for. The executive assistant to the president usually is an amazing ally to set you up and direct you. Remember we said, why would you make contact with the president? It's to get power. It's to then go to, this is a huge piece.
Can we do this in a role play?
Then go to, who it is that's going to be your ultimate user buyer within the organization.
Marnell, well, I'll be the salesperson on this one. Will you answer the phone? Let's say that Tony, the EAP here, referred us to, I don't know, Carol Johnson, the Vice President of Finance or Vice President of Sales or whatever, okay?
Yeah.
And Marnell, you'll be the receptionist for Carol Johnson, so I'm going to be the salesperson who was just referred. Okay?
Oh, I'm the assistant to Carol Johnson.
So here we go. So she says, just a moment, I'll transfer you, and you're going to answer.
Okay, so can we make one quick connection here? And the connection is that you've already talked to the EAP, Tony. And Tony says, hey, Dave, you should really call Carol Johnson's office.
Bill doesn't handle that.
Bill does not handle that.
Got it.
And then you say, can you connect me
with
Carol?
Over, or the EAP will throw me back to the receptionist who will connect me down. So here we go.
Excellent. Okay. Carol Johnson's office, Betty speaking.
Hi, Betty. I'm calling for Carol, please.
Who is calling, please?
This is Dave Hibbard.
Dave, and is she expecting your call?
Now, here we go. Here comes Carol with the death questions, right? So I don't need to go over to these on the left side over here. I don't need to go to the just let them know stuff. I don't need any of that. That's long ago.
Why not, Dave?
Because I only use those in the NIZ zone. I don't need them here because I have a different answer, a more powerful answer.
You got the power?
Oh, my goodness.
I got the power.
I got the power. So I'm going to say to you then, Betty.
Yes.
You know what, Betty? Can you just let Carol know that I was speaking to Bill Smith's office and Tony recommended, I don't say said, recommended I speak to Carol. So if you could let her know, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Now, does that have influence, Marnell?
It absolutely does. So as Betty, I'm hearing, Bill Smith's office, Tony.
And does Tony have power?
Tony's got power. And then I would say, you know what, Dave, let me check her calendar. She's on a call right now. Let me see how long she'll be. All of a sudden, there is a shift. There is a shift because you came from what we call, if you look in red all the way down at 6 o'clock, the PZ is the power zone.
Right.
You came from the power zone, and then you were almost like, I can never remember things when I'm a pinball, when you go bing, and
you're
all of a
bouncing
sudden,
around,
bing, 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 bing. Yeah, so power zone.
Okay, so listen, this just happened in live. Look, Marnell and I do not cold call. We don't sit on the phone and hammer out calls looking for new clients. We don't do it. What we do is we use SOAR to make strategic target contact.
That's right.
Very select. I made a call, 2 weeks ago to a Fortune 500. They're in the Fortune, maybe 200. Fortune 200 range corporation. I did my research. I went right to, I got through the NIZ zone, went right to the power zone. I got connected into Bill Smith's office. We'll use the name Bill Smith.
Right, the CEO.
His EAP answered the phone. Bill, as many of these executives are, male or female, was in a big meeting.
Or traveling or never there.
The EAP said, can I help you? And I said, are you Bill's executive assistant? And the EAP said, yes, I am. And I said, great, maybe you can help me, which shows a lot of respect. And then I explained why I was calling. I was looking, for direction. The EAP said, oh, you know what? You want to speak to Brian about that. She gave me Brian's last name and so on. I said, what is Brian's executive assistant's name? And we'll use Betty in this case.
Exactly.
I was sent over to Brian's office. Betty answered the phone. I did just what Marnell just did, and I made contact with Brian. I called and said to Brian, I'm calling to make an appointment, and Brian created an appointment. I flew there yesterday from New York and had a very productive meeting, a huge, huge opportunity, and we are on the glide path to make a long-term demand generation culture shift for that company, and that was all because of SOAR. So we use what we what we teach.
It really works. It really does. And so this is the Ride the Bull map. Utilizing the power zone is a really great place to gain power and get into the decision maker that you want to. Whether, again, it's, even purchasing. If you go directly to purchasing, in my view, you're just a number of people and you're going to sell price. In this case, when you come from the president's office, you are then looked at differently, and that's our goal. Remember, it's called demand generation. We want net new logos or net new clients for you, or increase your personal production.
Okay, so we're going to take you into one more space because of time constraints. So wish we had more time with you, but let's move here. And if you ever want to learn more about this at the end of the call, we'll tell you that and give you some help in that category. But here is something. Well, let me bounce back and stay here for just a minute. Oftentimes, the EAP, and again, you guys, I just want to land this for sure. In the power zone, you do not use the NIZ responses. Just let them know it's regarding. You
right.
Just give it all up.
That's your coach.
So don't do that. Okay?
That's your coach. Your confidant.
You're safe. You're home free there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes someone, almost frequently, will say, "Look, I can't set an appointment. Why don't you send me something?" And I'll show Bill, or if it's Bill will say, "Send me something," and I'll let you know if I have any interest. So we're going to show you a very interesting approach to getting an appointment, an actual appointment, if you're in a local market, from a send me something request. It's very solid. It works. So here's how it goes. Someone says, and Marnell, can we role play this one?
Absolutely.
You say, why don't you send me something?
Why don't you send me something, Dave?
And I say, I'd be happy to, Marnell, send something. And then I'm going to go into this talk track, and here it goes. I'm going to say, I'd be happy to, what is your email? Then after that, I'm going to say, Marnell, let me ask you this. Would you mind if I put something together and drop it off at the receptionist desk?
That would be fine.
Now understand, dropping it off at the receptionist desk is not a threat.
Mm-mm.
It's over at the reception desk. And they always say, it says pause, wait for a response. They always say, well, that's fine. Then I say, when I do, when I talk like this with a staggered way, when I do, would it be okay if I called you from the lobby and maybe we could put a face to a voice and I carry right on, and then I can talk with Bill at another time if he has interest, or we can talk at another time if you have interest, if I'm talking to the decision maker.
Right.
And they say,
that would be fine if I'm in.
May I ask when you're generally in?
If I'm on my desk, I don't know if I'd be always at my desk. I'm not sure.
But if I came by, say, on a Monday afternoon or something, or Tuesday, would that work, do you think?
Tuesdays are much better for me in the afternoon.
In the afternoon? Oh, Tuesday? Okay, well then how about Tuesday? Is 2 o'clock? Would that be a good time?
Yeah, I'm free and I'll be here.
Okay, great. Then what I'll do is I'll put something together. I'm going to reframe it now. I'll put something together. I'll come by. I'll drop it off at the reception desk, and then I'll put a call to you, and perhaps then we get to meet. So that'll be at 2 o'clock. And again, my name is Dave Hibbard. You're still on Smith Street, and I am very excited to see you. And I want to say thank you very much for your courtesy and the professionalism for which you've listened to me, and I do appreciate that.
Absolutely, Dave. I'll see you Tuesday.
Great. So I locked down that appointment, and that's how a number 6 works. And you might be saying, why do you call it number 6? Because it is a reason. Don't worry about it right now, but there's a reason why we do it. Marnell?
Yes, it works, and it's great, especially in a local market. So, really the ultimate is, do you want to shift to demand generation? Do you want to really increase your own personal production, or increase your client base, and really ultimately as an organization increase your footprint in the space in your market. So demand generation is achievable, and the SOAR methodology is profoundly safe, sane, legal, moral, ethical. It works. So, I encourage you to think about it. If this is something you really want to do as a company or an organization or an individual, there is a solution, and this, I hope, helped you greatly.
Well, there is a solution. There are a lot of ways that you can create a demand generation culture. Number one is,
Dave, we're supposed to leave time for questions.
Well, that's a good point. So I just stopped talking.
Right.
How about that? All right. So if you want to create a demand generation culture, and we can help you, we'd love to do it. There are a lot of ways to do it.
I want to show you this. These are real stats.
Let's do this quick, though. If someone makes 100 dials, about 40 of them tend to be wrong lists and wrong names and stuff like that. So you end up with about 60% net. Out of that, 46% decision makers, 44% high influencers.
And we call the EAP, the assistant to the president, high influencer.
We do. And then, so that's about a 90% contact rate. Out of that 44% of high influencers, roughly 60% or so become decision makers. So your decision maker contact is in the 70-80% range, and appointments run from 30 to 50%. And that's how it works.
Let me tell you, the appointment rate really is about your ability to craft a value statement that is powerful and be able to handle the natural objections. Because people object doesn't mean they don't want it. They're just thinking out loud. So you have to support them in thinking through those objections.
Right.
So I think, Andrew, with that, we would like to open the floor for some calls.
Questions.
Oh, questions, sorry.
Absolutely. We have questions that are coming in right now, and you can ask questions for Dave and Marnell Hibbard by using the chat feature on the player. Just type your question into the box down in the lower left corner. You can click send to send it to us. The first question we have concerns if you reach someone, if you have someone's direct line. This is how the listener phrased this. If you have the only point of contact you have is someone's direct line and it continues to go directly to voicemail, how do you handle that?
Well, there are, first of all, if it goes to voicemail, and
you can't zero out.
If you can zero out, you go back to the operator and you go on your hunt track page, sit near, business cell. You go into that platform, EAP, that kind of thing.
Right. If that's not the case, if there is not, you can't zero out, you go into technology.
Nowhere land.
Yeah. Then there is, we have a formula for leaving a message, but it would take the rest of the show to do it. But it is in the book. It's called a MOM. So you can look it up.
It's called a MOM. Look up MOM, and there's a message. If everything fails under the SOAR approach for making contact, because we're only making contact 90% of the time, which is extraordinary, but nevertheless, that 10%, you can leave a voicemail called MOM.
Which is compelling, and you get a 70% return call rate. Higher than that?
Oh, yeah. It's been running now. The latest stats are 85% return call.
My mistake.
And there's a reason why I don't leave a bunch of MOMs everywhere. But anyway, yes, there is a way to do that. Next question.
The next question concerns attempting to befriend the person that answers the phone. A listener points out that that's been his method, and that he does this in the hopes that it will help him to get through to the person he's actually trying to reach. Is there any emphasis on attempting to befriend the person who's the gatekeeper?
Well, it depends what that person is defining as the gatekeeper. We don't define the EAP as the gatekeeper, remember. If they're trying to befriend a receptionist, we think you're going to die if you're going to die. But understand something. SOAR is one way. That's a very successful way to reach decision makers. If that person says, I befriend the receptionist, let's just say, and it works, then we say do it.
Absolutely.
We always tell people, look, if you call and you bark like a dog and you go, roo, roo, and they say they put me through, then start barking like a dog. We don't really care. If you have a way that's successful, do it. But our view is it is a dangerous game at the receptionist level. It's not a dangerous game at the EAP level.
Not at all.
But as long as it doesn't get to be this baloney, chummy kind of conversation. You're there to do business in a professional way, but using your connection points.
Right. We talked about this briefly. It's DISC, so there are different styles of behavior, and there's one style that befriending, they could take you under their wing and get you through. But I think that would be like a 25% chance versus a 90% chance. But again, if it works, do it. I don't know that that's the best solution, though.
And by the way, in the receptionist area, as Marnell said, when you break down the 4 components of behavior, some of the receptionists are super friendly, and they'll put you through to anybody. You can ride the bull for 4 days. It just depends. But it becomes a dangerous game to apply that approach to every call. We always assume that you're about to make the toughest call of your life, and what strategies do you need? Next question.
The next question is from a listener that asks, what if you are attempting to call someone who had a previous negative experience with another salesperson from your company? How do you get past that issue?
I think this is a great opportunity. My view is that what a great opportunity. So I'd be very, very, very clear on what happened from your side, but also be open to listening to their side. My experience is, and this has happened, really, I've actually been in live calls in a SOAR Live training where that has happened. Someone picked up the phone and says, I've dealt with you people and you're terrible. And this person was really not familiar, but they handled it so well. They immediately took responsibility. Secondarily,
even though they weren't the ones that...
Absolutely. They took responsibility for their firm, and they suggested, listen, if nothing else, I'd like to clean this up. I'd really like to understand if there is a way that I can really shift the thought of who we are and what we've done. And I think the responsibility card is how I would do it.
The other approach to that would be if you know, because the way the question was formed, if you know that they had a negative experience and they're not happy, how would you approach it? I would ask my sales VP or somebody in my company who is an executive to make the call and to clean it up. Because frankly, if that happened to our company and we knew that, I would want to talk to the rep that had the experience, of course, or that, maybe we get some history on it, as Marnell said. But then as an executive and a partner of the company, I would make that call.
I like that.
So that's our answer there.
All right, we have time for one more question, and let's go with this one that was submitted to us. This person is a sales manager who says, I noticed that with a lot of our younger sales reps, they tend to, and the phrase he uses is heat up into confrontation quicker than other people. He says, I like the energy but not the aggression. How can I get them to dial it back?
Yeah, so you get to ask yourself as a leader, what's the training format they're going through, and are you providing them with very limited skill mechanics about how to do that job of demand generation such that they're frustrated because they just get hammered on these calls and they're making call after call, and so they heat up. What's causing the heat up? And the heat up is generally caused by lack of knowledge about how to, make a call like this. It's very discouraging. It's very hard. And so we as leaders get to back up and say, look, why don't I bring a solution into my company that can solve this problem instead of letting my people BTN plus L and get heated up?
Right.
I think that's most of it. It's tough.
It is. But I would also recommend to the sales managers, really to bring probably one of your top people in first and sit down with them and really talk to them about what they're up against, that this happens. And I think this is your opportunity to start building this individual, and that they're better than this, and they will only get the results they want if they take a more mature approach, and I wouldn't use the word mature, but if they take a more professional approach. And with that, I would say it's a great leadership opportunity. So I hope this helps everyone. If you have questions, I know that Andrew will now move into that category about how we can support you. But thank you.
Thank you very much.